My first year at West Beverly, the week before the spring dance, and I'm on a date from hell with Rodney, the president of the senior class of our rival Beverly Hills High School, who for some inexplicable reason took me to see some Irish folk dance troupe, Lord of the Dance, and then spent the whole first act begging me to make nice with his little pal, Rodney.
You didn't put up a fight last time.
Last time was in a pool house, not the mezzanine.
My plan was to ditch this horn dog at intermission, hiding in the ladies' room until he got the message and left without me. Just one more monotonous performance number to get through. And that's when a charismatic young phenom with raven black hair in a sea of redheads stepped out from the chorus and proceeded to steal the show. By this point, there's a standing ovation, and while the phenom is taking his bows, every so often he glances up in my direction with what looked like a meet me at the stage door kind of smile. By the time the house lights came up, Rodney was already putting on his parka.
I don't know what the big fuss was all about. He wasn't that great.
Somebody's jealous.
We're like bored stiff. Come on, let's go.
I gotta pee.
I ducked into the women's room and stood in line. A familiar face came out of the first stall.
Kelly.
Mrs. Walsh?
And then, out of the second stall,
Kelly.
Brenda, I can't believe you're here.
Well, at the last minute, a relative of Jim's from Ireland left 2 tickets at the box office for us.
How do you like the show?
Until that cutie pie did his solo, it was, you've seen one Irish chorus line, you've seen them all.
Brenda started to smirk.
The cutie pie is cousin Conor, who gave us the tickets.
Well, he's coming back to the house afterwards if you want to stop by and meet him.
Sure, twist my arm, why don't you? Cousin Conor recognized me the moment I arrived, and the chemistry between us was not lost on anybody. As he tried to teach Brenda and I a few basic moves, Brandon, the non-dancer, seemed a little distant as he went upstairs to study. Eventually, Jim and Cindy headed upstairs as well.
I wish we had more shows in LA, but tomorrow night it's Anaheim, then San Diego, Sacramento, etc.
So much for my plans to show you the town this week.
I could ditch the second show in Portland and be back Saturday night.
Saturday night is the spring dance.
Ah, who's the lucky guy taking you?
I don't have a date.
Well, you do now.
Brenda rolled her eyes.
Good night, Kelly. Good night, Conor.
I took the cue and picked up my car keys.
Do you need a ride?
I was going to call a taxi.
I can drive you to your hotel.
From the top of the stairs.
Oh, I bet he'd like that.
She knows me.
The next morning, I slid up to Brenda with only one thing on my mind. Brenda got right to the point.
Did he invite you to come upstairs and sleep with him?
I really wanted to.
Especially after you started making out with him in the car.
Let me tell you something about your cousin Conor.
From the look in Brenda's eye, I began to wonder, had Brenda ever made out with Cousin Cutie?
Not me, but all my friends in Minnesota sure did when the dance played for a week in the Twin Cities, winter before last. Conor spent the week going from one girl to the next, including Brandon's girlfriend.
That's why your brother was so aloof.
Exactly.
And I guess you're saying I shouldn't expect the handsome Hofer from Cork to meet me at the spring dance.
Exactly.
Right before Brenda would slip out with Dylan, she stopped at my table.
Looks like Cousin Cutie is a no-show.
You didn't really expect him to show up, did you?
Not after he didn't call all week.
In that case, I give you permission to be with any guy here, except one.
I watched Brenda and Dylan leave the ballroom, and as bad as it might sound all these years later, I envied her. After the dance, I didn't want to go to the after party or the beach pit. As I said to Brenda when we were leaving, when the highlight of your evening as queen is dancing with David Silver, it's time to cut your reign short. I was about to get in my car when I heard tap dancing coming my way across the parking lot.
Better late than never, right?
Let me guess. Your plane was delayed.
My plane was delayed.
And you didn't call all week because?
Because I forgot to get your phone number and you're unlisted.
You could have called Brenda and asked for it.
Or I could show up as a surprise and take you out dancing.
I've been dancing nonstop for 3 hours.
I've been dancing non-stop for 3 years.
Sounds like we could use a night off.
And then the world's greatest kisser took me in his arms, and my life would never be the same. It was pretty much a joyless Thanksgiving at the Walshes that year. Dylan and I were at each other's throats, a replay of our time in the French countryside. David Silver and I avoided eye contact while passing plates of stuffing and yams, rooting for opposite sides of the Jackie Mel squabble over baby Aaron's custody rights. And I was still reeling from the awful Me Too behavior John Sears displayed that morning at a Keg Alpha charity breakfast. With Brandon in SF and Donna in Houston, I stuck around to help Cindy and Brenda clean up the kitchen, then played some backgammon with Brenda before heading back to the beach house. A taxi pulled up as I was unlocking my car door. Out stepped Cousin Conor. You remember Conor, right? The young lead from Lords of the Dance, aka the world's greatest kisser, who I hooked up with after the spring dance at West Beverly. Yes, you heard right. Hooked up being the operative phrase.
What are you doing here?
What you think?
I begged you not to come.
You begged me not to come during college registration and rush week. You didn't say anything about American Thanksgiving.
Look, Conor, I told you when I left Dublin, that had to be it.
You told me no other lover has made you feel as sexy as I did.
There's a very fine line between sexy and slutty.
Well, that's exactly what you kept saying. In the shower, on the veranda, at the airport, not to mention...
Stop it. Just, please.
Okay, time for a slight confession. Those of you who pay attention to this kind of stuff probably remember when I confided in Donna about how Dylan and I made each other crazy jealous in the French countryside before I flew home alone from Paris a week earlier. Well, the part I left out was the weekend excursion I took to Dublin before I came home. Don't ask me what landmarks and attractions I visited because, well, we never left his flat. Worried that our sidewalk reunion might wake up the Walshes, I agreed to drive him to his hotel. Conor was not happy about our itinerary.
I can't believe I fly halfway around the world to be with you and...
You just told me you're doing a show in Vegas for the next 10 days.
But I only took the gig to be with you.
Yeah, except I don't live in Las Vegas. And by the way, I hate Las Vegas. I was just there to watch Brenda elope.
Brenda's married.
No, Conor, where are you staying tonight?
On a bench at the Greyhound bus station. Unless...
With Donna in Houston and David staying with Mel, the apartment was dark and empty when we got home. That's right, I took pity on him.
Nice place. Which one is your bedroom?
The one at the end of the hall you won't be sleeping in. Here's your couch. Here's your pillow. There's the guest bathroom. Sweet dreams.
Wait a second. Can I get a blanket? Is that too much to ask?
When I came back with Grandma's quilt, Conor was standing next to the couch, buck naked, except for his tidy whities, which could barely contain his enthusiasm.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
Doing? I guess you forgot I sleep in my underwear. Unless someone pulls them down to my...
We are not sleeping together tonight.
You've made that abundantly clear, Your Majesty.
No, we're not doing roleplay either.
Why not?
You know why not.
Because we had too much fun playing characters in Dublin?
No, because I said so, my lord.
Growing up, my idea of camping meant sleeping bags by the pool, housekeepers keeping us stocked with fresh batches of s'mores, and toilets that flushed in the cabana. That's why the month I spent with Brandon and his parents when we first became a couple at their favorite lake in Minnesota was magical. With days spent hiking, fishing, and skinny dipping in coves you couldn't see from trails, and nights full of campfires, stargazing, and romance. Unfortunately, a memory that also lingers is when we stopped at the general store for marshmallows and this stringy biker chick, who seemed high on something, recognized Brandon and started berating him for moving to California without saying goodbye. For his part, Brandon said nothing, and we drove away. Afterwards, Brandon brought me up to speed.
Becky was my girlfriend going into 9th grade. I broke up with her when I found out she was fooling around with my cousin Conor. You met him at our house. He's the Irish...
Yes, I know, Conor.
Such a prick. He turned 18 when the Lords of the Dance took up residency at the Kyle Center. And I swear, I think he tried to have sex with virtually every girl we knew.
Yeah, Brenda told me.
Wait a second. Didn't he hit on you majorly at our house?
He's a shameless flirt, that's all.
And he's got the biggest ego. You know what he calls himself? The world's greatest kisser. I mean, how vain can you get?
At this point, I had three options. Follow Steve Sanders' credo, deny, 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 or come clean and admit we've had sex a couple of times. Or find a middle ground. Coward that I am, I admitted to making out with him when he showed up for the spring dance. Brandon was not pleased.
Brandon, you were being ridiculous. It was 5 years ago. We fooled around after the dance.
The dance you wouldn't go to with Steve?
No, the dance the cute guy I had a crush on tells me he thinks of me as a sister.
Well, that shut him up. Thank God he didn't ask me what else we did that night. I couldn't even imagine how he would react if I told him about our weekend in Dublin, or even worse, our role-playing tryst here at the beach house. I was still in my jammies when Brandon showed up unexpectedly.
You'll never guess who showed up at Castle Walsh this morning.
The stalker who tailed Valerie from Buffalo.
Cousin Conor.
I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure the blood must have rushed out of my face at that point.
Connor's in Beverly Hills.
Yep.
Is the dance company back in town?
He got flown out by some Hollywood producer. I really wasn't paying attention until he started talking about you.
Me?
You sound surprised.
Well,
From what he told me, you two have something really special going on.
he said that.
Yeah, and he was just getting started.
By this point, I'm ready to throw myself at the mercy of the court, beg for forgiveness, anything not to lose Brandon. And then the conversation veered in a direction I was not prepared for.
He's such a bullshit artist, always talking about his conquest, his one-night stands all over the world, bragging about all the threesomes he's had.
He said we were in a threesome?
He said a lot of things, but most of the stuff he says, he just makes up. In fact, when Brenda had her collegiate misfire in Minnesota, Conor's name came up, and Darla and the others compared notes. Premature much?
That wasn't my experience. I think I'll keep that to myself.
So how did you leave it with him?
I don't think he's gonna call you this time around.
What makes you say that?
I introduced him to Valerie.
We shared a good laugh.
When I left, he was teaching her the high step.
Sure sign. They'll hook up before noon.
Well, he can have her. I got what I wanted.
Brandon leaned in for a kiss, and then another, and then the hands came in play. That boy was no slouch when it came to loving, and he knew it.
So, who would you choose as the world's greatest kisser? Cousin Conor, Dylan, Jake, or me?
That's easy. I'd choose me.
That phrase would come in handy later, but for now, it would have to do as Brandon and I resumed where we left off.